Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to Field and Foley. My guests today are Piotr Stachera, the audio lead at Hyperstrange and Ivory Tower Soundworks, and Kacper Kajzderski with the coolest title I've ever heard, the Game Audio Necromancer, also from Ivory Tower Soundworks. So thank you to both of you for being on the show. And I want to start with you, Kacper, because I want to ask, what is a Game Audio Necromancer?
It's a hard question because it is just tied to the dark character of our work in general. So it was more like looking for something, which will give that vibe we are looking for, and merging that with that Ivory Tower Soundworks, that vision of a tower in which you are isolated from the world and just working on your stuff, corresponds well with that wizards and necromancers vibe. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's really, really a good choice. It made me chuckle when I first saw your profile. It was really good. And then I'm going to go to you, Piotr. You work like across Hyperstrange and also Ivory Tower Soundworks. How do you navigate that, like working in-house on a project and collaborating as part of an external audio team altogether?
My let's say 9 to 5 job is at Hyperstrange. So that's when I start, let's say about at 10 a.m. and finish my work at about 5 or 6 p.m. And that's, let's say, this core part of my job. But I get up really early. I start 45 past 6 a.m. So if you do it systematically, there is a lot of room, to deliver everything else you have to deliver. Actually, we scaled a bit. So back then, like 2 or 3 years ago, I was barely able to deliver all my sound design and music tasks that I was supposed to do in this morning window, but now it's a bit too much on our plate. We're kind of expanding, so we have a dedicated team that works with us, and my task is just to distribute tasks, oversee that all the answers are there, that everybody knows what he's supposed to do, that he knows everything about the game or the object he's making sounds to. And so I'm kind of like a manager or CEO, I suppose. So I kind of just like moved on the back seat, but I still do some of my operational work, like designing sounds, implementing or making music in this morning window. So fortunately, I was able to delegate a lot of what I did before to my team, but I still have a few things remaining. And a day ago, I went from full-term employment in Hyperstrange to half-term employment since yesterday. Nice. So it's kind of frees up my room again for many things. But yeah, so that's that.
That's awesome. So very structured and early riser, I get. I have a really issue with like getting up early. I try it from time to time, but it always reverts back to like 8 a.m. or something. I cannot really get up before 8 a.m. for a long period of time. I don't know, my body just doesn't want that. But yeah, on the other hand, I can work really late, so that's the other end.
Right? I
same
have
here.
I'm also a night person, basically. All my family is. Genetically, I'm a night person. I feel most refreshed on 9 a.m., so I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel the same, but I noticed that if I wake when my body wants to wake, then the day is over. I couldn't find this additional time for doing things, and I find that humans are very adaptive. So you might not like it that for the first week, for the first month, but later on you can just adapt. People can shape in many things in their lives, and I suppose this one is too. But this is my opinion. I just wanted to put in my opinion because I have a very strong opinion on it, and I think I'm again like genetically on the same side of the table. I am a night person by design, so to speak. So.
And yeah, in the end, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I can kind of relate because I've like a few years ago I've gone into the ice bathing stuff. I don't know if you like heard of all that movement of people plunging, and I was really someone that hated the cold, absolutely. And just like you said, I adapted over time, and now I'm just absolutely in love. I go out, like break the ice open and just jump in. And yeah, it has taken some time, but it worked. So maybe I can become an early riser too. I have
Worth
still
trying again and again.
Yeah, and again. Yeah, and maybe let's jump into a specific project because I've just checked it out. Blood West, I really enjoyed it. So far, I only finished like the first chapter, had the first boss, but I like the overall vibe. And yeah, starting with maybe you being audio lead, Piotr, how did you like guide the overall sound vision of the project to keep everything cohesive, to find like the voice of it?
Yeah, I mean, back then, when Blood West was in the making, I couldn't really call myself an audio lead because there was nobody to lead except for myself. But let's suppose I did all the decisions. I had to to stick to the production plan and sort of like navigate between several projects because in Hyperstrange, typically, I don't really work for a year or half a year or even a quarter on one game. I have to switch to one game or the other. I mean, at least I had to. So the Blood West was created in this mode. So it was not like I sat down and created the entire vision. It was like done more in a sprint, I suppose, like in a sprint mode. And it wasn't all that much of planning in there. Actually, Blood West has really simple, it doesn't have any complex audio systems like environmental systems. It's just very simple, very simple sound. Like sounds are not really all that simple, but like, environment placements. It has just one single stereo environmental track playing in the background. It switches from caves to, canyons and so on, but typically it's just very simple. These are very simple solutions because of, time constraints and actually that we are not too proficient in audio programming in Unity back then. So it was done with very simple means. I think that something that really shines through is that like music done by Kacper, because it draws a lot of attention to the player, and it's something that pops out in reviews every now and then. So I suppose that actually ambiences and ambience music is something that is most appreciated by players. So I think most of the credit goes to Kacper in Blood West audio. That's how I perceive it.
Yeah, Casper, and I also wanted to say, like, the music you did was amazing. Like, the first time it swelled up when I was exploring, and it went kind of into this, like, dangery mode. Like, the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and it was like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So, first of all, good job on that. And maybe you can talk a bit about how you went with composing those, how you made decisions, what's maybe special about those tracks.
Yeah, I can mention that in general, that what Piotr was saying, Bloodwest in general was developed in chunks, let's say. So that's why there wasn't any clear leading or one, let's say, direction over the course of the development. So the music was like that too. For the first track was like, okay, we need the track for ambient track for this map, and yeah, that was it. So there was no thinking about how much tracks do we need for the whole game, if it will be exhausting to to be here on the one map. You are playing the one biome, one map for 3, 4, 5 hours, of course, depending on the player's tempo, but yeah, we weren't considering things like that in the beginning. So if we did, we could, think about some stuff like layers or dynamic systems and stuff like that. But in the end, there are just, playlists for each biome. It works pretty well, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I feel a bit under.
Yeah, I feel like the same way. Like we could have done so much more if we had just some more time space to do it. And I agree with Kacper. Like there were just very simple means for achieving what we tried to achieve in Bloodwest. And yes, and it was an issue picking when we finished one chunk, then switching back to other games and again going back and picking new things, new enemies, new environments, new biomes. Some of them we learned that actually exist just, days before release or, so... so
yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, so...
It is what it is.
Exactly. So there was no, I suppose, master plan. There was nothing that, a common part or a production method that we utilize. Nothing in the likes of that. The most interesting part about this is it was very much ad hoc, agile, so to say, development. So yeah, I'd say that people ask us sometimes, I mean, how did you approach to this? How did you approach to that? And that's exactly what Kacper says. It's just a playlist playing with, random tracks. So sorry to disappoint you if you'd like to know, that something really exceptional was there, but not really. That's the point. Yeah.
I also noticed that it was like more of a playlist, but it worked really well. So I was just wondering, what were your inspirations for the music? What direction did you go in, or were you just you got the environment like, okay, what do I feel about this, and just go and do it?
Yeah, it was mostly following the atmosphere, let's say. I think I'm very good at deciphering the atmosphere of various games, and I have easy time going deep into different kind of atmosphere. So for Bloodwest, it was so fun to me for the few reasons. The first one was it was giving me that thief vibe. Of course, the thief in the Wild West, and without stealing things and so on. But you got the point, and it was really great feeling to create something in that vein. And the second thing, I'm naturally drawn to darker music, dark vibes, stuff like that. So that horror element, let's say, was very natural to me. I didn't have to wonder what I should achieve or what instruments should I use. And that Western part and merging that horror part with Western part was also so fun to me, because I'm a huge fan of 16 horsepower, for example, and Gothic country. So for me it was also a moment to express all that inspirations I love. So yeah, that was totally fun to search for that Western twanky, let's say, guitar tone and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, as I said, like, very well done. It has such a cool mood to it, and I think the music makes a lot of difference on the whole game. But yeah, overall
so
I
much.
really enjoyed it so far. And maybe we'll switch to another project as well, because you also worked on Postal Brain Damaged, and I don't know how it was for you, but I guess working on a Postal game is kind of a really, really good gig to have, because it's just so over the top. It's just so weird and wacky, and especially Brain Damage is crazy. I mean, for people who haven't played it, the first boss basically is a Karen wanted to speak to the manager, and that in alone is funny as hell. But also how it's been presented is just nice. So yeah, how was your experience with working on that?
One more thing that I don't mean to derail your podcast, but there's just one I think
all right.
valuable thing to add. What Kacper said about Blood West is that he said that he looks at the gameplay and he knows what to do, right? And I think this is one of the most important qualities a game composer has to have, just having this sensitivity, I'm sorry, to what's happening in the game, what's the atmosphere of the game, what's the sort of like a choreography of the game, and I think Kacper does it really well, and I sort of learned a lot from Kacper about it, to have this so that's the most important thing. That's the entry point when you write music, right? Like making sure that you stick exactly to the atmosphere. But yeah, it was just a digression that I had to add, because I think it's a nice thing to add. But about Postal Brain Damage, like the development in many ways was very similar, if that was the question about the development in general. Did I get it right?
Yeah, just in generally, like your experience when working on that project, because yeah, I haven't seen any behind the scenes except for music, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah. So I think like the experience was pretty similar to Blood West, because back then all we had at our disposal was working back and forth on many different projects, and Postal was done the same way. It was really over the top. There was some cut content which was in audio as well that was so offensive that that even voice actors said, "Sorry, man, I cannot do this." Like, because if if it would go out, then I'll be in trouble, right? So, and we of course, we understood that that's fine. But what I'm saying is that the development was wacky as well, at least from our perspective. But it's the nice thing about Postal is that it's by definition is janky. So you can have some junk in it, and also remembering from some comments, people found some audio mistakes funny, and that some parts of or areas of audio in Postal were janky. So that was a free pass for us, let's say. So just
Perfect.
small mistakes were forgiven. But I suppose it was very much the same way. Just had to, jump in, do as much as possible in as little time as possible, and then that's it. But like Kacper was responsible for pretty much entire music in Blood West, and I was co-responsible for soundtrack in Postal, but I had the exactly the same experiences. I think that we just learned that so there's entire level with environments and some enemies and so on, and we just learned it just before early access release or full version, and so that was the same, let's say, wacky action. So it was stressful and difficult. But I have to admit, and Kacper, I think he can admit it too, that we learned a lot from developing this way, that you can actually do your things quicker, that you have to manage your resources, your time, and just to pick priorities and say goodbye to those who would really love to do, but you just cannot because of time constraints. So that was what I remember from Postal Brain Damage development, audio development.
Yeah, about that stressful moments and so on, I remember that I was recording some additional stuff and tweaking some things, probably for current boss fight, a few hours before the final build. So yeah, that was a bit stressful, but But yeah, I think we delivered. So in the end, it was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Also here, very well done with the boss fight music, especially like the latest one, the mech one. That was kind of so weird and wacky and unexpected. So yeah, really well done, Ivan.
Yeah, really, really. The soundtrack for Postal was really vast in style, let's say, in genre.
Yeah.
So I was expecting, because when we were starting, I was expecting we just need mostly some metal songs, heavy riffs for the fights and shooting and so on, but eventually it turned out that they wanted the mostly exploration songs for the levels, and they were totally crazy, and each level is totally different. So they started, okay, for the first level we need something like the Sims music. So I was expecting metal, and the next day I'm starting working, and I'm searching for that vibe in my head for the Sims music. So yeah, there were a lot of places like that, but there was also some metal stuff, and current boss fight went totally Primus vibe, so that was also totally cool for me. And yeah, it was extremely fun to work on that soundtrack.
Yeah. And what would you say, like both of you, like either Blood West or any other game or Postal, what was so far like the most interesting kind of recording you did for a video game? Something where you really made something unique that was, yeah.
Well, every now and then I realize that what am I doing now? It's really cool. For example, in Postal there was this guy who had his trumpet down in his butt, but it was going through his mouth as well, and he was attacking with this projectile, which was vomit and turd at the same time, for example, right? And how do you design sounds for it? Do you cross modulate spectrum with the turd being the carrier and the vomit being the modulator, or the other way around? Right? So when you realize that you're thinking in these categories now to deliver this specific kind of sounds, I realize that I'm in the right spot in my life. That that's the things that I have to consider. No, but what was perhaps not most interesting or weird is that I think we both met our childhood hero, the voice behind Garrett Thief from Thief Games, and
Nice.
so we were at the remote recording session with him. I mean, it's not related to Postal exactly, but to Blood West. But like for me, it was really really exceptional, and yeah. So that's I think I will keep in mind forever meeting this man, which was like really nice, respectful. We said that we were honored to meet you here, and then I said, look, there's this villain from the game he voiced. I still have it in my studio, right? And I don't know if it was cringy for him or not, but anyway, like this is the thing that I would remember the most, like meeting childhood heroes. An interesting fact is that Kacper said that Postal Brain Damage soundtrack was very diverse. Once you had this, serene soundscapes like in Sims. Next you had something that was Asian themed. Next thing you had was like this sci-fi Area 51, which was called Area 69 in Postal.
Of course.
And
with Star Wars like soundtrack.
Star Wars like soundtrack and so on. And thanks to that Kacper has a lot of versatility as a musician, because he's a classically trained musician. He has a master's degree in composition. He can pull off all these things, like Sims music. Next, then you have Star Wars themed music. Then you have like these Asian music and so on. He knows which instruments to pick, what are the typical things in composition, and so on. Whether, for example, me, I don't really have any, musical education. I get there eventually when I study some music from these times, but I don't get there nearly as quick as Kacper. He just exactly knows what to do at this given time with music, and we still take advantage of it till today making music. So that's one thing to note, that not every composer can pull off a soundtrack that is so diverse. That's a nice thing, I think.
But to be fair, I have some writer's block all the time, so it's not like day after day I'm totally have easy time with working like that. But yeah.
Yeah, but on the outside, you're just the machine churning out everything. No, that's very good. But yeah, we all have that, like the fear of the white empty project is always something to fear. But yeah, just maybe over your career, what's the thing you worked on that you like the most, Kacper? What is this thing so far where you're like, oh, this one was like just right up my alley, or are you like having fun with all the projects and like the versatility of it?
I always have fun writing the music. It's I sacrificed nearly my whole life on music, so it's my, let's say, meaning of life. So every project I work on it's fun. It as always, there are some difficult moments and stuff like that, but in the end I love all the games we worked on. Of course, there are better and worse songs. Let's say sometimes you've got you feel the vibe less or stuff like that. But I don't think I can pick just one project I love the most, because usually that's the usual thing. I think people who work with music have that. Your latest project is the most
the best.
Best, just the best. Yeah, produce the best, compose the best. It's the most fresh for your ears. You are not bored with it and stuff like that. So yeah, I can say I have something I think about as my, let's say, opus magnum or something like that. Let's say so. Yeah, just looking forward to the next projects and trying to deliver the best I can. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, and let the players.
And speaking of,
let the players decide, right? That's the thing, right? It's basically the music you make to a game doesn't really belong to you. I mean, it does in legal or like to the company you work for, in legal terms, but it's for them, for the players. So at least I think of it this way: that they decide what they like the best, what they listen to most, and it's just not ours anymore in a way after it's released. So
yeah, if we love the music we made but players don't, then it doesn't matter,
What's the point, right?
Yeah, I get that. And sometimes you have these things where single songs or something get really popular that have been made in just a day, and someone like poured their heart out into a track that took like a month to do, and nobody cares. So
that happens often.
Yeah. And but yeah, speaking of problems, because you said like there's sometimes problems, and also you've spoken about like that you sometimes also have the fear of the empty project. How do you overcome those situations? Because I think it's always good to talk about those things when things don't work as expected to other people. So we don't have that like kind of Instagram thing of, oh, we did all these amazing projects and every junior sound designer is just like, oh shit, I'm not good because I question myself all the time. I think it's important to tell everyone like we all question ourselves all the time and have these issues, but how do we overcome that? That's something that's interesting to me.
In my case, is something like managing the pressure, because you can have a positive or negative pressure, and sometimes and sometimes it's both at the same time. You can have a strict deadline, and it can be both negative and positive pressure, because you are, I have to do this in that time span, but I don't have any idea and stuff like that. But then you start working without the idea, and that way you are going to that point that you will find the idea eventually, and there is always a moment everything just clicks. So that's, let's say, my general approach, let's say, to find that golden point in the pressure, let's say, envelope, if that makes sense to you. But
it
but
makes sense,
in the more, let's say, practical solutions, the thing that helps me often is to relieve that pressure from, I have to create something unique, exceptional, something to be remembered, and just try to switch the vibe. Okay, I just need to make the music which will fit the game, the atmosphere, and focusing on that stuff. Don't trying to not bother with if it's so unique or it's just the same chords as in every song on the planet ever, if it's the same instruments, the same I don't know, arrangement, stuff like that. So that's probably the thing I, let's say, use the most. And usually when you are going up from that lows you had when working on something, you eventually go to that moment when you are, okay, I'm in control now. So
just
so,
start
yeah.
working to get to that point. Then
Yeah. The start is often the half of the success, let's say.
Yeah. Like breaking the fear of starting. I can expand on what Kacper said, because I find many things parallel. However, I do have some approaches. I cannot say I'm completely free from this writer block things, but I really focused on it, did some research, tried things, and I think I minimized it at least to a manageable level, right? So that's and the thing is that starting is, like Kacper said, is an important thing. Also, not having like enormous expectations at first. Kacper said that you always try to do something the best way you can, so you're trying to come up with something very original musical structure, sound design in music, or anything, right? But for me it matters more. I don't fear if I just have a single note in a bass line, right? That's okay for me. I first I don't expect much musically. I try to build on top of it, build the vertical structure, so all the instruments and sounds, combining them, trying things. I typically just create these structures in just having a root note, nothing more. And I'm in a constructor mode, not really a creator mode, I'd say. I construct because I can see, okay, there's the bass line, these are the drums. I can see if they fit, if they don't fit, if I have 8 notes or a melody or a rhythm, based on 8 notes. I know that I will not fit many 8 notes in the same spot in a composition, so I go for longer notes that repeat less often. And just having these simple decisions, I record some sounds, I design some sounds, and so on, until I notice I have my, vertical structure ready, and I overcomplicate things. So at first I keep simple, and I know that once I'm let loose, I will complicate things on my own. I will try some, progressions. I will try some different sequences, and if it sounds nice at first, and sounds oftentimes decide if it sticks to the image, right? If basically, I mean, composition is of course important, but it's not super important, at least at the start. And if it sticks, if the sound design of the track sticks to what I see on the screen, to the game footage, then many things you try, different chord progressions, different harmonies, different bass lines, different sequences, different arrangement of what's happening in the music. If I think that if the sound design is good, then it works in many ways. That there is a lot of freedom. But the worst thing that came to me is that I over constructed the super chorus part, most important, and then I couldn't match it to anything else in the song because everything sounded really underwhelming and so on. And if I first create several sections without pretty much any composition, just rhythm, notes, the same note and so on, I find that it's more like Lego bricks for me. And music has this
Yeah.
adaptability. We have a musical scale system that in itself defines what will be harmonically nice. And if everything works in this favor, you can choose things that go outside of this of these rules. If you're if you let the listener know that you'll be going outside of these rules early on in the compositions, you can implement them later on. That's how it is for me. The less I think of it like, okay, let's make something really good, then it kind of I just build on top of it, and then, as Kacper said, there is this click moment, something unique, a combination of things that makes it unique, and that that's the central point of the song, and the rest is just details. The hands just work by themselves, and from that point on. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
Yeah, and a
That's really
saying,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, a saying
Go ahead.
worth remembering: done is better than perfect, and you can always erase that imperfect stuff, but you need to have that basis, let's say. Yeah. And
Yeah.
another thing I thought of, sometimes or often, depends on the project and the vibe and stuff like that, but sometimes you've got that feeling that, okay, it's so good, I don't want to erase it, but it doesn't fit the game, it doesn't work in the context, so don't fear to erase that things.
Yeah.
Usually you can find something more fitting, and you can just let go that feeling of abandoning a good idea, let's say.
Yeah, once
Yeah.
you make like 500 tracks, if you make like 10 tracks in the entire music history, then everything has a really matters to you a lot. So you don't wanna get rid of these sections that, as Kasper said, they sound good, but they don't really fit the game. And if it's like it's you already done like 500 tracks, I think that letting go is easier for me, right? Because I know that I'm capable of doing something that's equally good. I just need some time, some repetitions, some luck perhaps, but I think I can do it. And also to emphasize what Kacper said is, Picasso used to say that inspiration is good, but it has to meet you in your workplace. So that's the point here, I think.
That's really good. So you basically you construct your draft. So you already have like kind of a framework in which to work in, and I find this interesting because it's exactly the same strategy I use as well. Like if I have, for example, a short film, I just plug in sounds randomly from my folder. Just okay, here's just an explosion, so footsteps. They don't match the picture. It doesn't matter. Just to have everything in there, and then I don't have an empty project, so I don't have the fear of the empty project.
Because
And
you
then
don't have it.
sometimes
Yeah.
even these and sometimes even these first drafts stay in. Sometimes I record something on the fly, but for me, for example, if I have something that doesn't fit but I like it, I usually like render it out and save it for somewhere else. And sometimes I come back to these samples and use them in other projects. I mean, at least for sound, I don't know how it is with music. Is this also something that you have that you like not really kill your darlings, but like keep them in a kind of a safe for when you need them later, maybe.
I can say it because I have an opinion, because we're just creating the system to manage the unused things, and as you said, that you keep this record of all the things that might not find any use in one project, but you are aware that you can use it in a different project. You're a professional, you do a lot of it, and you know that it's just saving a lot of time, and if you don't do it, then you sort of like waste a lot of time that you spend designing something and then not using it because you don't really know where's that on your hard drive, or you didn't even remember that you have anything like this. And we're creating this tagged database of music that we have not used, or stems and so on. And for example, if you have like a bass stub pulse, that's really exceptional, that works well, that somehow fits well with drums and and other instruments, why not use it again? If it was used in a licensed track, track to which we have passed our rights to somebody else, then yes, you cannot really do it. But some versions, some iterations don't, and I think managing these stems, samples, not only you can make a sample pack out of something that actually worked in productions, or was just about to work but didn't because of some artistic choices, but musically or sonically it did work. And the same for it, whether it's sounds or music. I think it works both ways. So keeping your library tagged well and knowing that you not to waste, so that you don't have to waste time on something that you will not use and forget, and perhaps if you're aware that it's there, you can use it somewhere else. So I agree totally on what you say. I think many people underappreciate it, especially beginners, but I think there is just some point where you have to do it once you think of, man, how much time did I already waste not doing this, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of the case, I often record some raw sketches of melodies or chords or stuff like that. So not a, let's say, finished product in any way, but it's often like one day I love it. I definitely need to go back to it and revisit it and do something out of it. But it's often like when I go back to it a week later, month later, I'm like, okay, what was so special about it? So yeah, that's a little additional case, let's say.
Yeah. Yeah, but the reflection sometimes also comes the realization that it wasn't as good as it first appeared.
Or the other way around,
But,
the part that you were so bored of, and you said was a dumb idea. You listen to it back like in a month and say, man, it's just a really nice hook and so on. And I think for me, for example, just this part, because about composing music, I think it's a thing that was not transparent to me at first, but later on I found that managing this part is really important. When everybody does, when somebody works on a track or even sound design, right? For a long period of time, you listen to it over and over, you tend to lose like objectivity, if it sounds good or bad. You just don't really know. You just don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, and you don't know how, like, where to go, what decisions to make, and so on. And I think that that's the super important thing as well, is to set and structure and time block your work so that you're not prone to this effect. And I learned that for example, I have these like creator and a constructor mode in music, and I either do this thing when I'm bored of constructing, I do in a more spontaneous creating, playing, trying some things and so on, and the other way around. So managing this part so that you're not bored, you don't really lose objective view of what's happening. It's a thing that it was underappreciated by me at least, but I found that it's crucial basically to make sure that in scope of the entire game OST or an album that you will deliver. So I find it very, very important.
And speaking of recording, because you managed that you record sometimes stuff, and I have a question that I ask every guest on this podcast, and it's, what was the first sound you ever recorded and why did you record it? So whoever wants to go first.
First ever, you mean not in a game, but not for a game, but in general?
yeah, in general, whatever comes up first in your brain. It sometimes provokes the most interesting like answers. So
Okay, I can start because in my case it's of course about recording music and my first project. So the first thing was some keyboard recordings, but let's say that's without any microphone and stuff like that. But the first recording was with my cousin. We are huge fans of Nirvana back then, and we just, let's say, we were about, I don't know, 11 years old, something in that vein, and we did our distortion guitar, but by putting the old type computer microphone inside a classical guitar and
nice,
just
yes.
recorded it with Audacity. And I was a drummer, so I was playing on a box with a cardboard plate, let's say, on it with sticks. Sometimes I was hitting at that metal lamp, and that was my right or something like that. So that was our first recording. I think we even, let's say, recorded an album like that, or EP, or demo,
Nice.
or stuff like that. But honestly, it just got lost in time, let's say.
So it worked.
I feared that. I just wanted to ask if you still had the recording,
Yeah.
but I feared it was lost to time.
Yeah, and
Such a
if
shame.
it worked musically, that's interesting. Like say if it went into your EP or recording, then I suppose it worked in context
Yeah,
of a track.
the guitar was distorted properly, so
Yeah, of course. Cool. Yeah. So I'm avoiding this question because I don't really think of anything too interesting. I'm not a field recording type person. I was just, when I've seen the cover of your podcast, I was thinking, oh man, so what did I get into? I mean, I really like to start field recording because I know that you really get something interesting, and it's sort of like a sound design. You sort of learn what to record, what are the distances, materials, mics, and you're kind of doing your sound design in a way that it starts in recording, I suppose. That's how I imagine it.
Indeed.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
but I don't really record too much in terms of sound design because mostly of the lack of time. We don't really have time to go out to a place to record some ambiances, folies, and so not in Hyperstrange at least. But what I remember I recorded musically was this. I have this old. It's black because I redid it. Electribe SX sampler. The old one, like it has like I don't know, less than 20 years I think, but it's very old anyway. I think it's like more 15 years. It's like it has like 15 years or more. And now it sounds like the filters are broken. I think the sliders like jump in unexpectedly, and then the parameters change and so on. But I remember that recording anything, like recording in this sampler and then just doing very simple things like pitching it, modulating with the pitch LFO or filter LFO. The things you can do here are very simple. Like even the filters are ugly, digital, really low resolution filters. The effects are ugly, to be honest. I use it more now as a arranger than an actual sound creating device. It's convenient for arranging, like a sampler or a Groovebox sampler, I suppose. But recording voices, recording things that resonate, like knives, scissors, things like that, and then mangling them with lousy effects. Really, where
Yeah.
because like they're really like
Nice. Yeah.
like you have these all tools like favored by sound designers. You had nothing of this sorts, and then the sounds turned out really really fine. Like I remember recording birds. I remember recording again these metal things, and after some processing they were totally messy, noisy, had some tonal quality to it, so I could record it on my sound card to a computer, tune it, and then use it in some context in music. So
I can also share. I thought about my first Foley recording, let's say, or sound design recording that actually was used in a game. Because
Yeah.
when Elderborn was my first game I worked on, but I was hired, let's say, just for the music. There was nothing about sound design then, but at the end of the production stage, they were like, "Hey, can you do a bit of sound design for Elderborn?" So I was like, "Yeah, I can try." I did some, let's say, synthesized sounds, like collecting the essence of the enemies. That's Souls-like vibe. But I remember that there was lacking of impact when attacking the ground, let's say. And that was my first. I'm kind of proud of it because I just found, the shovel. I just had a box with dirt and just recorded digging shovel in that dirt, and actually it worked. I was totally unaware of any sound design practices, any didn't know anything about Foley recording anything, but and it was totally hectic because I didn't have any pipeline, so I was recording with my Zoom recorder I accidentally had. I was going, outside of my house recording that. Not know I didn't have proper headphones, so I had totally no idea it was good or bad. So just going between the computer and outside to move the files between computer and Zoom, and yeah, that was hectic and totally unproductive. But finally, it worked in the game, so yeah, pretty proud of it. But yeah, I'm glad I could move again towards focusing on music and not sound design, let's say.
Yeah, but it's like that was a proper Foley session, and you had like the opportunity to find something that is, let's say, easy to reproduce with the normal materials. Because the fun part with the recording starts when you get, for example, something like a sword, and you pick it up and you expect it to make like a sound like in movies, and it doesn't make any sound, and you're like, oh shit, how am I supposed to make this?
Yeah.
But with like shovel and dirt, like the real thing actually sounds amazing. So yeah, but that's kind of the thing that also brought me to recording like these interesting puzzles of how can I get this sound that I expect to sound the real thing like it, but it doesn't if I really pay attention to it. And how do I get something that conveys the feeling? That's what always like interested me about recording. And it's also, of course, a form of performance. Like you said, like the sound design begins with the recording. Like sometimes even I record stuff and it's just like that I can put it into the game. It's like very well just works right out of the gate. Not very often, but when it does, it's like it's such a good feeling. It's like this raw piece of real thing is in there, and yeah. And I also you mentioned like these broken filters and stuff like that. That's also something that I really like to explore. For example, I have like an old system from the I think 70s or 80s here that I just got gifted from someone, and the speakers are broken, so it's just garbage. But you could send like a signal through a broken speaker and record it with a microphone, and you have a very unique kind of broken sound. You could mix it in with the original sound, or you could just use it for something. And it's like these kinds of things are always fun because, just like you said, there's a lot of tools out there, but nobody has this specific broken speaker that sounds like this. So yeah, it's always something that sparks my creativity.
Yeah, like this constant curiosity about the sound, and also what I admire very much about experienced sound designers is that, for example, I've been to a lecture when a sound designer showed how was he designing a shotgun sound, and of course there were sounds like firing a gun, like a sub bass layer and so things that I were expecting, but you had the lion roar in it. You had the some foley that was not related to metal and so on. It just was, I think, some leaves because they have this texture that's nice and so on. So I'd say that like a fraction of sounds, like 1/3 of the sounds, were not really in any way connected to the to the device, the gun that he was about to to make sound to, right? So That's and I was really blown away and amazed. So I suppose that they hear sound not as a source in itself, but they know and perceive the sound qualities and characteristics so well that they can even have this brain connection, that you make a gun and you have this roar, and some parts of texture, perhaps dynamics, anything might work in a gun, right? I mean, it's like people think that you go to your shooting range, you record a gun, and that's it. Bang, you put it in a game, it works, right? But you of course know how guns sound when you. And that's it. That's not how guns sound.
It's just a boring plop.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to do far more to make sure that it's attractive. And I find it really admirable that these sound. By the way, this guy was David Mika. He works in Flying Wild Hog. I think he's
Flying Wild
Hog.
Yeah.
Lead sound designer, or perhaps a principal sound designer. Can tell. And he showed it in his lecture. And again, it was something it says, okay, so I can do it too. Like, not only if I design a gun, I can pick pretty much any sound as soon as it somehow in some way has similar traits of texture that I can apply to this new design. So
yeah, and there's a thing hidden in there as well, because you mentioned like the lion roar, and that has been around. I don't think we've ever talked about this on this podcast, but for people that are not into sound and that are also listening to my podcast, welcome. That has a long tradition, because you recognize animal sounds. Like a lion's roar, if you hear that, everyone hears that, and it has some kind of effect on you, right? Because we used to be scared of those kind of animals and run away. So if you hear a very intense lion roar, especially if the bass is there, there's something primal that shakes inside of you, right? And so if you use that, for example, for a weapon or for an enemy, then subconsciously people, like, the fear level rises up on their own because they hear some of those sounds. And it has been very popular, used in like Star Wars. They have all the like Empire ships have some kind of sounds in them. They, for example, have snakes hissing inside the TIE fighters. And you don't really notice that, but you notice that it makes you kind of uneasy. These are kind of like quick, like attack ships that are kind of scary. And one of the reasons is because they used real life sounds that you can relate to subconsciously. And that's called psychoacoustics, and that's the kind of thing I'm really into. I could nerd about that for hours, but it's fun. And as you said, there could be leaves in there could be just someone stepping on something. There's so many things you could do, and if you do it with intention, in a way of saying like, okay, how do I want the player to feel while shooting the shotgun? Or if it's an enemy, how do I want the player to feel to be faced with that, and then decide on what feels right? Then you get always a really, really good.
Okay, so I think I just learned something really groundbreaking for me, at least, because you think this way, that not only because I think of the sound, what's the source of the sound? What are the details in it, right? So like every detail has a sound that's useful for me in design. But you said thing that I didn't realize, that how do you want the player to feel and look for sources of the sound that are connected to this specific thing. So again, it's just really I think it flipped some switches for me, so I have to think it through. But yeah, so you learn something.
Yeah,
every
I'm
day.
glad to talk about that for hours. So happy to spread that. And I think for you, Casper, the same thing is for music as well, right? You have always these kinds of things where, I don't know, if you have a big brass band, it's always these kind of iconic marching stuff that can trigger something, or you have some kind of notes that can trigger something that you probably also are aware of, right, while composing stuff.
I think the most of the stuff is intuitive, at least in my case. So I don't have to think, I need to make a horror movie, so or horror games, so I need to use that and that to trigger the fear in players. I just know that you get, unsettling drone, you already are halfway there. So
yes.
Usually it's I don't want to make it look too simple. But for me, sometimes it really is. I don't need to think about how to make something unsettling, because I just intuitively choose unsettling, chords or instruments, or for me it's looking for the atmosphere, and that's what makes that final effect on the player, let's say. So I think you can go there with both ways. You can have the knowledge how to achieve that effect you are looking for, and just learn what feelings are triggered, but what instruments, what I don't know, what colors in music and stuff like that. And on the other hand, you can just do it intuitively, let's say, so instinctively. Sorry. So yeah. In my case, it's usually a mix of, let's say, intellectual work and emotional work, so to speak. I think.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
until today, it was the same for me because I just learned a few things about it. That I'll try this approach in some ways. But I think when I compose something that's supposed to be scary, and if I'm myself scared by what I compose, then I suppose it'll work. It works in this
Yeah.
case, though I might not be sure if the effect I'm going for will work, but I think I'm sensitive enough so that I know that if if I feel pumped up for something, if I feel scared, if I feel reflective about something, that's I sort of like I try to figure out quick, because once I get used to this piece of music, it doesn't work on me this way. But if I say, okay, so this invoked this and this particular feeling in me when I'm trying things, then I suppose it will on players, more or less. So it's a bit of intuitive work for me as well. So that's I think that's just equally as important, part, I think.
Absolutely. Like I don't want to make it sound like I'm just like planning everything out. It's just something that I've noticed, like this pattern, and for me that meant that that made me go way more into recording, because I could record real life sounds that intrigued me, and I always try to have a recorder in my bag or something, because if I'm out and I hear something that like jumps out of me of all the noise in the city or something, I try to record that and to get that, and I try to use like as many natural recordings. I mean natural. I sometimes use weird microphones, but you know what I mean, like performed sounds that hit me emotionally, because just like you said, it's at the end of the day is as an artist, we are like about connecting with other people, and if we feel scared, then pretty sure a lot of people will also feel scared, because we are all humans and we can be triggered by the same things. But especially like with animal sounds, this pops up again and again, and I have this wonderful example. There's the sound designer Peter Albrechtsen. I also had him on the show. He had the sound design from the Evil Dead movie, the new iteration, and it was just the work was amazing. And I found out then in behind the scenes that they used for one of the screams of the main villain character, like camel sounds, and I haven't heard them before. And then I checked them out, and it was like, holy hell, this is amazing. So sometimes you can get like weird animal sounds that you didn't know, and now I always have that in the back of my mind. I know, like, okay, this is like a real primal weird kind of scream that almost sounds like a human, that you can mix with human vocals. So these are kind of the references I keep in my head then, because I like these examples, and I utilize them when this comes up. But it's also really, it is first and foremost a very emotional, just intuitive workflow. But yeah, it's just interesting to get into the nitty gritty of it.
It's like
Yeah, it
architecture. For me, it's like architecture. There's some form of art in it, and there's some form of knowledge, techniques that you have to, tools, and so on. So it's kind of like an architecture.
The craft.
Yeah, the craft. Yes, that's what I was about. Yeah.
Yeah, but it brings to my mind the Nazgul case. I don't remember exactly. It was some horses or stuff like that, but not so primal and scary. But the final effect was pretty scary. I mean, not.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it was scary, but yeah, it was definitely
Memorable.
very, very memorable, and
Yeah.
How do you know?
great, just
maybe
great. It was piercing and
maybe
stuff.
they use these scary, animal sounds. You're just not aware of it, and because you were not the one who, put them in there. But maybe they did so that, a trick with that. I don't know.
Yeah, and
a lot of,
horses
like,
can
human
be
actors
pretty
as well.
scary because they are, pretty big, and if you meet them in real life. So
Absolutely. And also you have, like, in your subconscious, you know what a horse sounds like and what a big horse sounds like. At least some people know that and had that personal experience. So when you hear that sound, even in a subtext, you don't recognize it as a horse, but you recognize it as like, oh, fuck, this is a big animal, right? And that's what I mean. That's the kinds of things, the connections that form in your brain when you hear these sounds. And that's just, wonderful. So, the last thing I'm going to ask is if you have any projects right now you're working on that you want to promote, let me know, or anything else you want to shout out, any people, now is your time.
So that's I think is one thing I think really worth promoting is Postal These Sunny Days DLC that came out just yesterday, so it's fresh, and it's really nice. It has the extension of the same vibe you had in Postal. So if you're into dumb adolescent jokes that are offensive with over the top violence and things like that, then you'll be very happy to play it. So it's just out. Just go ahead and play it. It's very inexpensive. It's just DLC, so you can just have some beer and spend a few hours in it. Very, very, very cool thing. But just keep an eye. If you have any opportunities or you find us anywhere, just keep an eye on what we're doing. We're working on many things now, and it's just difficult. I mean, all the things. We were so lucky that we are working on every game we worked on was really exciting, something that really resonates with us. Me and Kacper, we come from very different backgrounds, but we like the same things pretty much, and it so had happened that in games we work on the things we love both. I can't it's all exceptional. I think in exceptional games, so I can't really pinpoint anything specific, I suppose.
Yeah, Kacper, anything to add?
I don't think so. The many projects are in the early stages, but from the near future, we have planned the release of Blood West OST for streaming platforms on September 23rd. So that might be that one thing worth announcing, let's say.
Absolutely. Nice. So thank you both again for being on the show, and I wish you a nice rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. It was great talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I've learned something very useful today, and if you feel like talking to us ever again, then just go ahead and reach us, and we'll be delighted. Yeah.
Of course. Looking for more audio-related podcasts to listen to? We're part of the Audio Podcast Alliance, featuring a hand-picked selection of the very best podcasts about sound. Be sure to hear the latest episodes from our friends in the community at audiopodcast.org. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting on patreon.com/fieldandfoley or ko-fi.com/fieldandfoley, where you gain early access to episodes in lossless format and can submit questions for our guests. Thank you for listening.